Hi there. I'm tempted to just keep this on to hear myself in Korean, but I'll take it off. Could be complicated. Actually, I'm going to sit down if you don't mind. The School of Grandmas, lately I've been reading a lot about ecosystemic design, and grandmas being students, I think there's a potential for more, because, for example, in Spain, where I'm from, many people my age and younger, we're losing a lot of skills in terms of recipes and how to run your home and how to be able to buy local food and be smart about home. And I think grandmas can be good teachers as well, not just students. No? So it would be a good connection there. So if you come to Spain, we were happy to learn some Korean food. Right. So I want to talk about change as a movement. Yeah.
It's changing.
Yeah. The organizers asked me to insist on a particular set of tools that we use, and I'll dwell on one of them. But I would like to first give you a bit of context, or get us thinking. Can you raise your hand if you recognize this company, Mossack Fonseca? This is a company from Panama. It's a law firm, and there was an employee there a few years ago who thought that they were doing bad things, or they were representing lots of people and companies that were doing bad things for the world. And out of conscience, that person decided to leak a huge amount of information to a German newspaper. Actually, I cannot see very well. So the leak was 11 million documents. So here you have a lot of information about rich and powerful individuals and companies being delivered to a newspaper who is incapable of dealing with all that information. So 2.6 terabytes of data. So they contacted this network called the International Consortium of International Journalists, which is it's a non-profit composed by journalists from all sorts of media outlets all over the world, including Korea. And together, over 1 year of secret work and very strong collaborative work on a shared purpose, they managed to process all that information. And after 1 year, they started publishing very revealing articles. And all this was called the Panama Papers. So what I wanted to highlight here is the effect of working around purpose, being a network, and not having a hierarchy dealing with this problem. You know this gentleman, I'm afraid. Recently, not recently, a few months ago, they decided to pull out of the Paris agreements against climate change, which was a very sad piece of news. But the day later, many American cities said, well, we don't care what the president says. We believe that we can make a difference. And they operate within a network called C40. It's a network of mayors against climate change, which is a very positive sign. And we were talking before about the role of government and emergent powers, no? like cities. You all know Wikipedia. Not much I need to talk about those. You mentioned the Me Too movement as well. Very, very interesting, very powerful. And this is TED Talks or TEDx. It's a well-known platform for sharing knowledge. So I would like to, and the last one, which maybe not the best one. This is a tweet in 2014 by Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, where he said, Marriott, the hotel we're staying actually, wants to add 30,000 rooms in 1 year. And they said that Airbnb can do that in 2 weeks. Here, I'm not defending the business model of Airbnb, but in terms of like the connecting to the movement and the capacity of exponential impact, it's a very interesting data to take consideration. So, and I would like to do an exercise of collective intelligence now here. I would like to dedicate 2 minutes to do this, if that's okay with you. My question is, what do these things that I just shared have in common? What do you think? An adjective would be good. And if you can have a piece of paper and dedicate 1 minute with the person right next to you to just have a conversation. See if you can come up with 2 or 3 adjectives that you can apply to all these movements. Can you raise your hand if it's not clear, the exercise? Okay, that's either you're very shy or it's very clear. So the idea is grab a piece of paper that you can actually give, because I will ask you then to move it, to pass it on forward, so I can pick them up at the end and I can do stuff with that. If it's in English, that will help me, but in Korea it's also okay. So should we dedicate 2 minutes to that? I've got a counter here. So the moment I say go, find your partner and give me some adjectives. Go. You should be talking to each other. It's the first step to collaboration. Okay, so if you can start writing them down, 2 or 3 in one piece of paper, that would do. And then give them to the people in front of you, and so on. And you can collect them and send them forward, and I'll pick them up at the end. Does anyone need more time? Are you freaked out by this? Okay, let's go to the content. So my point here is that all these organizations, what they are, is that they have network dynamics in their model. And they are pointing towards what the future is looking like, which is decentralization, emergent movements that we mentioned before, and especially many of them are, the most powerful ones are purpose-driven. So it's not so much about the formal hierarchies of the functioning of these systems, it's the actual purpose that brings people together. So I believe, and many people believe, that to bring about social entrepreneurship and having an impact, purpose and values are a fundamental driver for people. So we are seeing a transition from a hierarchical paradigm to a more network paradigm, where organizations are transforming. The Korean translation of this is in the book. I'm afraid we had to take it out otherwise. But the idea is that we move from an industrial paradigm from the previous century, where we were focused on control and monitoring. We were looking at top-down hierarchies, decisions being made from someone on top of you, and you had to operate. There was a lot of work being done on how to design for process, how to increase efficiency. But now, what we see is that the organizations that are having an impact are not the ones that are functioning under this paradigm, are the ones who are working on the connection paradigm, on the ecosystemic paradigm. Whereas autonomy and alignment are a key factor, where people share purpose and they feel empowered by their purpose. They function on an emergent way, so we don't expect people to tell us what to do. We just propose, share, and actually get into action. Where the learning loops are extremely important. There's a culture of experimentation. There's less fear to fail and learn, and then we share and we get better. And finally, innovation or finding new ways of solving problems, like the School of Grandmothers, make an impact. No? So I guess this change as a movement, it's important to make the difference between the movement changing from the industrial paradigm to the connected paradigm. I like this example. Recently, there was a lot of problems in the pharma industry, because some companies, some venture capital was buying smaller companies that had a good drug. They would fire all the R&D department and they would raise the prices. So that resulted in problems of sourcing and stocking for hospitals, and they had problems to actually provide the service of healthcare. What happened is that the hospitals at some point they got fed up and they decided to collaborate. And in America, they have now, these major hospital companies, they have created their own pharma industry. So to give an idea of how collaboration can be on the highest level. And this is a manifestation of this change of paradigm, I find. And the other example I wanted to share is the Chinese social credit system. It's interesting because it's in the new paradigm, so it's new power values. It's a way of decentralizing penalties. Is everybody familiar with this system where some citizens that get low social credit rating, they cannot buy flights or they cannot send their children to certain schools? So this is a way of decentralizing prison. It's a way of decentralizing the court, how to give sentences between citizens. So when we say we move to the new paradigm, it's not necessarily a good thing. There are some old power values who are making use of these new power models to pursue their agenda. So while it feels that it's a very powerful and good thing, it's not necessarily a good thing. It's an ongoing struggle. So a bit of context about me and my network called WeShare. We are a community of makers, of doers. We believe in a society based around models of transparency and collaboration. And what we do is we help other organizations or other entrepreneurs to get connected and to bring about change based on these new collaboration models. Like Eugene was saying before, collaboration is not straightforward. There are certain habits that need to be adopted, and we try to disseminate those. And that's why I'm here. We are around 7,000 members around the world. It's an open organization, anyone can join. And we are a movement. And we are trying to bring about change, although we fail a lot as well. I don't know where Eugene is there? But yeah, so we based around movement and emergence. And, you know, it's open to anybody. So if you guys fancy joining a wacky network, you're welcome. As you can see, we have a lack of presence in Asia, so I think Korea would be a good starting point. That's the best picture I have of myself. And we do many things. And because the time is running out, I got 1.5 minutes. Let me talk about, right, so we are a network. We're a network, and we function very differently from traditional organizations. We're not a hierarchy. So there is no one who actually makes the decisions for everybody else. So we have a number of tools to run this network governance, how we make decisions, how we do things, how we share knowledge. And tomorrow, I believe, we're going to be doing a 2-hour session on this, on how we make decisions, how we move funds around, and how we share knowledge in a decentralized way, completely decentralized. There's no bosses where I work. And today, I'm going to dedicate 1 minute to talk about how we move money. So, traditionally, companies, there is a person, normally a guy, sadly, who makes a decision about, okay, we're gonna dedicate all this money to do some research on this topic. And then the machine or the rest of people, we have to follow and do that. Now, we don't have that luxury. We don't have a decision maker in a network. So how you can do this, no? So we work by consent. We work by certain people emerge with certain good ideas, and then other members of the network, the ones who believe it's a good idea, they allocate funds for that project to happen. For example, I was working with a company recently in the UK. It's a very traditional company, and the boss said, all right, we need to develop our products because we're getting squeezed out of the market. We want to develop data science capabilities. And we're going to put a £2 million budget to this, which is a lot of money. We're going to create a community of practice. We're going to experiment, learn, and share. And since this is being recorded, I'm not going to say what happened afterwards, but I can tell you later in the coffee break. But it was not agile, that's for sure. It was not quick. Now, how does this work? How do we do this in a decentralized organization, in a network organization? So there is in our case, we wanted to develop capabilities on city mobility, mobility as a service, as a better solution to cars, for example. So we wanted to gain that knowledge. What that happened is that a person in Paris said, on CoBudget, on our tool, on our platform, he said, I want to carry out some research on how some solutions are being carried out in certain cities, which are good examples. I want to do this research, and I'm going to publish an article. And for this, I need, I don't know, 7,000 euros, I think they were asking, 8,000. And then a number of people said, oh, I think it's a good idea. Just enough people to give some of the budget. So that became a project very quickly. Then we got the article, and then someone else said, oh, why don't we participate in this event, and we can be organizers and so on, and we're going to bring some speakers, and then we're going to learn, we're going to get connected, we're going to get positioned, and for that I need 20,000 euros. And enough people thought it was a good idea, and they got invested. And finally, some people said, why don't we organize for our partners, we organize a product, a learning expedition, to go to Sweden and Norway, which are good examples of good mobility practices. So that person asked for a certain amount of money, and then enough number of people said, well, that's a good idea, we put, time is over, sorry. Anyway, sorry about that. But we did all these things. Co-budget is a tool. Tomorrow afternoon, we're gonna do at 3 p.m., we're gonna do a 2-hour workshop on how to do co-budgeting, how to do decision making, and how to do knowledge sharing. Sorry for that, guys. Thank you very much.